Welcome to CS History Anon. Today, we dive into the gripping words of one man's survival, courage, and despair. Today, we prepare to cross the Niemen into Russian soil. The emperor himself inspected the troops. His presence is like the sun. His confidence warms us. His ambitions seem boundless. We are told there are over 600,000 of us. Soldiers from across Europe, French, Poles, Italians, Germans. This is the greatest army the world has ever seen. No one doubts victory. The officers speak of a swift campaign, crushing the Tsar's forces and returning home before winter. My comrades joke that this will be an easy march, but something in my gut feels uneasy. The Russian forests loom like a silent warning. The officers have maps spread before them, discussing routes and strategies. But the men, we talk of glory and the riches that await us in Moscow. Some have brought dice and cards, playing to pass the time. It feels like an adventure now, a journey into legend. I wonder if I will return home a hero, if my name will be spoken with awe by those I left behind. The banners flutter in the wind, and the horses snort impatiently. Tomorrow, we cross into Russia, and history awaits us. The roads are endless, stretching through thick forests and boggy fields. Every village we pass is abandoned, stripped of supplies, the houses burned. The Russians refuse to give battle, retreating further into their vast land. The officers grow impatient, but we march on. Food is already scarce, foraging yields little. I hear whispers that the Russian army is luring us deeper into their territory, but I dismiss them. Surely, no army can withstand the might of the emperor. I spoke to a Polish soldier today, a veteran of Napoleon's earlier campaigns. He warned me not to underestimate the Russians. They have no love for life, these people, he said. They will burn their own land if it means denying us victory. I laughed nervously, but his words lingered. Tonight, I dreamed of endless forests and wolves circling our camp, their eyes gleaming in the darkness. When I awoke, I could still hear their howls echoing in my mind. Smolensk was supposed to be a victory, but the Russians retreated again, burning the city behind them. The smoke choked the air for days. We fought hard to take the ruins, but it feels meaningless. There is no food, no shelter, only ash. I saw men scavenging for scraps in the rubble, some gnawing on raw horse meat. Disease is spreading. Dysentery has already claimed some in my regiment. The emperor remains determined, his orders clear: press on to Moscow. The officers repeat his words like a mantra, but the men are beginning to grumble. Victory feels distant, and home even more so. The scenes from Smolensk haunt me. Children crying in the ruins, old men begging for mercy. The officers have begun punishing those who straggle, yet every day we lose more men. I fear we will have no army left by the time we reach Moscow. Still, Napoleon's confidence never falters. He believes we are destined to triumph. I wonder if he can see the despair in our eyes. Today, I saw the gates of hell. The Battle of Borodino was like nothing I have ever known. The ground shook with cannon fire. The air screamed with musket balls. Our regiment charged again and again, each time leaving more of our brothers behind. I lost count of how many fell. The Russian earth drank their blood. The victory was ours, they say. But what kind of victory is this? I saw General Bonaparte standing amidst the chaos, calm and unyielding, as if the slaughter around him were merely a game of strategy. We have won the battlefield, but I fear we are losing the war. I carried a wounded comrade back to the camp today. His leg was shattered by a cannonball, and he begged me to leave him behind. "Save yourself," he whispered, but I could not. He died an hour later, his face pale as the moon. I wonder how many more of us will share his fate. The officers toast our victory, but the rest of us sit in silence, too exhausted to celebrate. Moscow was supposed to be our salvation. Instead, it is a city of fire and ruin. The Russians burned it themselves, denying us supplies, shelter, everything. The streets are filled with smoke and ash. The silence is deafening. The Emperor still hopes for peace, but I see no sign of surrender. We are stranded here, far from home, with winter approaching. I try to keep my spirits up, but doubt gnaws at me like a rat at a crust of bread. Will we ever leave this cursed land? The men have begun whispering of mutiny. I cannot blame them. We have marched so far, suffered so much, and for what? A city of ashes? I saw a soldier strike his officer today, screaming that he wanted to go home. His body was left in the street as a warning to the rest of us. I no longer dream of glory. I dream only of bread. We are leaving Moscow. The Emperor has ordered the retreat. The men are silent, their faces hollow. What lies ahead terrifies us more than what we leave behind. Winter is coming. The winds have already begun to bite. Supplies are non-existent. Many of the wagons meant for food and ammunition carry only wounded men. I overheard officers saying that the Russians are harassing our rear, picking off stragglers like wolves preying on the weak. I do not know if we will make it back to France. The nights are the worst. The cold seeps into our bones, and the howling of wolves echoes through the darkness. I have begun to envy the dead. At least they feel no pain. Every morning, we leave behind more bodies, frozen in grotesque poses. I do not know how much longer I can endure this. The snow fell today, covering the land in white, but there is no beauty in it. It is a death shroud. The cold is relentless, biting through our uniforms and into our bones. Frostbite has taken the toes of some of my comrades. Their screams haunt the nights. We eat whatever we can find, dogs, horses, even rats. The stronger among us steal food from the weaker. There is no camaraderie anymore, only survival. I saw a man collapse in the snow today. He begged for help, but no one stopped. We are all too weak, too broken to care. I wanted to help him, but my legs refused to move. When I looked back, he was gone, swallowed by the snow. I pray that I am not next. Today was a nightmare beyond anything I thought possible. The Berezina River was swollen with icy water, and the Russians were waiting for us on the other side. Our engineers worked frantically to build bridges, but they collapsed under the weight of men, wagons, and cannons. Thousands drowned in the freezing current. Others were cut down by Russian artillery. I saw a man pull his comrade down into the water, desperate to climb onto a piece of floating debris. I survived the crossing, but at what cost? My hands are so numb I can barely hold this pen. I feel more dead than alive. I do not know how I made it across. The river was chaos, men screaming, horses flailing, cannons sinking into the icy depths. I saw men tear at each other like animals, fighting for a place on the bridges. This is not an army anymore. It is a mob of desperate souls clinging to life. We have left the Berezina behind, but it feels as though the river still clings to us. The cold is unbearable, the wind cuts like knives, and every step is agony. I can no longer feel my feet. I fear frostbite will claim them soon. The officers try to rally us, but their voices are hollow. No one believes in victory anymore. We march simply because stopping means death. I saw a group of men today huddled around a fire. They were burning books, wagons, anything that would light. One of them had a loaf of bread, and they turned on him like wolves, tearing it apart. The sight chilled me more than the frost. We are no longer soldiers. We are animals, fighting over scraps, driven only by the will to survive. The Emperor has abandoned us. He left with his guard, riding ahead to Paris. Some say he is going to raise another army to save us, but I no longer care. We are alone now, left to face the wrath of winter and the pursuing Russians. The men are bitter, their faith in Napoleon shattered. I overheard some calling him a coward. It is dangerous to speak such words, but no one stops them. Even the officers look defeated. The retreat has become a death march. Every morning we leave behind more bodies, frozen where they fell. The roads are littered with the dead, men, horses, even wagons abandoned in the snow. The living are too weak to bury them. I do not think we will make it to France. The city of Vilnius lies ahead, but I do not know if I have the strength to reach it. My body is failing me. My hands are raw from the cold. My stomach gnaws at itself with hunger, and my legs feel like lead. I see men around me collapsing, their faces pale and hollow. Some simply lie down in the snow and never rise again. I understand their despair. We have heard rumors that Vilnius is overrun with the sick and dying, that there is no food, no shelter. Still, we march toward it, clinging to the hope that we might find relief. I do not know if hope is a blessing or a curse. We have reached Vilnius, but the rumors were true. The city is overwhelmed. Hospitals are full, and the streets are lined with corpses. Men lie in the snow, too weak to move, their eyes staring blankly at the sky. I saw one man gnawing on the frozen flesh of a dead horse. Others have turned to darker things. I dare not write it. This is not war. It is a living nightmare. I found a corner to rest in, out of the wind. A Polish soldier shared his last piece of bread with me. His kindness brought tears to my eyes, though I had no strength to shed them. He said he would try to find shelter tomorrow, but I do not think he will survive the night. None of us will. What remains of the army has left Vilnius. We are now less than a shadow of what we were. Of the hundreds of thousands who marched into Russia, only a few thousand remain. Most are frostbitten, starving, or delirious with fever. The officers no longer give orders. They simply march with us, silent and defeated. The road is endless, the snow unbroken except by the tracks of those who came before us. I do not know where we are going. I no longer care. All I want is warmth, food, and rest. I dream of France, but it feels like a place from another lifetime. We have crossed back into friendly territory. Russia is behind us, but so are most of my comrades. Of the hundreds of thousands who marched with me, only a fraction remain. I feel no joy, no relief. I am a shadow of the man who began this campaign. I write this with trembling hands, unsure if I will survive the night. The Emperor once seemed invincible, a god among men, but now I see he is mortal like the rest of us. This war has shattered my faith in him and in myself. The snow falls lightly now, covering the road in silence. I think of my family, of the warmth of the hearth and the laughter of my children. Will I ever see them again? I do not know. All I know is that this campaign has left me broken, body and soul. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you for watching.